what problem, I guess, felt so broken that it was worth building a company around?
I mean, the funny story here is that Twice, as the starting point, obviously the company was founded in 2018, and that's when I joined. And when they did that, they figured out, well, you do need a lot of information about the battery. You do need a lot of insights that make it even possible to operate this reliably and ultimately safely. So then they went ahead and started developing Twice, or the foundation for Twice, which is this data analytics platform. I think the key misunderstanding for most people seeing a battery or seeing a battery storage is it is literally a white box. Like, it is a big container, usually painted in white for thermal reasons, and thinking that it just works. You switch a button and it's a battery you charge and discharge, and then you don't have to worry. But how many components are working in harmony in there or disharmony, and how much work it actually is to work on them. It is a very common misconception, because that's also what a lot of vendors want to have you think. And then the next thing is you have to convey the idea that then batteries are actually very complicated and a problem. So you kind of provide the counterpoint to your first statement that batteries are the future, but batteries are complicated, and then you provide a solution. By the time you arrive at your own solution, you've already lost 90% of the audience.
From the inside, though, where do things sort of quietly start going wrong? Maybe started to touch on some of that there, but what are you seeing from your perspective?
And they consistently missed that. So they got penalties, they got derating, and they didn't know what happened. So that's how we started working with them. So you have these thousands, it's hundreds of containers in that case, full of battery racks and then full of cells. So, I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of cells. And we pointed them to I think 25 that were causing problems immediately. And then they could go in there, replace these modules, looked at them as well, figured it was a manufacturing defect. So it was impossible for them to ever get the storage to run with these cells in place, because they limit the operation of everything else. So one single cell can then very rapidly degrade, depends on the architecture, but in that case, the architecture was set up in a way that very quickly degraded the capacity of that entire container massively. And that meant that they lost very quickly, I think 25% of their capacity, which meant that they went under nameplate. It was a huge effort, and they just ran around slapping band-aids on the storage whenever something came up. And with our solution, they suddenly saw a lot of issues before they were actually arising.
Yeah.
So they could prevent or preempt this, move from reactive to proactive maintenance. And that made a massive change to their operations. And while the performance technically didn't really improve, the way they looked at it was, well, now we have the resources available to actually proactively manage this. And